Perfect. So I want to be super respectful for your time. So if everyone is good to go, as people are continuing to come in, I'll start sharing my screen. I'll start today's masterclass and we go from there. So if there's any questions, comments, concerns, the chat is there. I do my best to have a look at it. I'm not always on the chat because I'm more focused on our conversation that we are going to have today. But the chat is always open. And like I said, if there's the questions, I'll address as I see them, if I see them, or we'll leave some time at the end. It will be, if there's any questions, it will be my pleasure. So I'll share my screen. So today's conversation is all about communication. So what we're going to talk is really, we're going to dive deep on how to have impactful communication. Because when we are in a service-based industry, so when our business is about advice, guiding people, actually, the more I think about it, even if you're selling a pen, this applies, but my market is really more service-based entrepreneurs. But the words that we use and the communication that we use is what is going to make our success. Because there's a lot of psychology behind the words and the way that we communicate. So the goal today, my goal together today, is first to share with you my science-based framework to influence, to communicate with influence, and then that you leave with concrete actions, things that you really can implement right now. I'm not much of a fluffy person that's at a high level. I like being grounded. And so you can leave with things that you can actually change and implement in your conversation as we leave today. So for those who don't know me, like doing a Google search, which I love, seriously, that's a first. Obviously, my name is Sarah Gilbert. So I'm a business strategist and mindset coach. So I've run my business for the last 11 years now. And so I really help focus entrepreneurs on 3 pillars: marketing, productivity, and mindset. And I'm a geek of human behavior. So today we are going to geek out on human behavior. So the things that I share are not theory. I am also an entrepreneur. So conversation is my main tool. Words are the main tools that I have to influence my clients to take action, to influence potential clients to take action. So I know the reality of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So this is why I'm very hands-on, action-driven kind of person. Oops, my mouse here. So where do we start? So let's start. I want to start today with the beginning. Like every entrepreneur, I started my business focused on my skills, my expertise, bringing tools, bringing spreadsheets, bringing all kind of information. And what I realized that has a limit. And I remember the day clearly. I was talking with a client and we were talking about their marketing strategy. And they were like, oh, this is awesome, Sarah. This is exactly what we're going to do to grow our business. Like, this is exactly in terms of strategy to bring in visibility and convert client and everything. Which, the type of meetings that you feel like outstanding after. Just that it was the 3rd time we were having the same exact meeting. And that's when I realized there's something I didn't get. So our information has a lot of limits. This is why our communication is so important, to be able to communicate in a way that brings our clients and our potential clients to take action on our advice, to take action and do business with us. That's what we're going to talk about today. So when I Googled golden rules, I thought that was a cute title. And then when I Google that golden rules, there are just so many communication rules. And they're all good. Some have 3, some have 4, some have 20. They all have their place. But the way that I want to bring it today is really in terms of fundamentals. Because like everything, when we understand the fundamentals, then the rest is like details. We often focus on like the last steps of things. But if I get to the root of human behavior, of how people think, how people act, why people act, then the rest becomes a lot simpler. You know, I often compare communication to like weed in my grass, you know, in the lawn in my backyard. If I mow the lawn, it's always going to be there. But if I go and pick the root, it's never going to come back. Well, understanding communication is about picking the root. So my commitment today is really in different folds. So the first thing that we are going to look at is how does communication works? Fundamentals that we want to understand. Then we're going to look at the most important conversation that our clients and potential clients have is the conversation with themselves. Then we're going to look at words and how to communicate when we have a clear understanding of the two first steps. And then at the end, I will be full transparency. I will be talking to you about my program that I have that will be starting soon for the ones who want to go further and deeper into their communication. So today, what we're going to be talking about specifically is psycholinguistic. So what's psycholinguistic? It's really understanding, it's the study that understands the link between psychology and language, human behavior and language, because there's a lot of psychology behind the words. So psycholinguistic is actually that study. So it really includes what we say, how we say it, how we structure our sentences, the meaning we put behind words. And it applies as in our written communication and our spoken communication. And psycholinguistic is not new. It's just newly applied. So it's a science that's been there for years, but we're just now understanding it better and applying it better in a business context. So psycholinguistic is your number one tool in business because it really doesn't matter if you have the best advice for your client. It doesn't matter if you have the best solution. What matters is how the words that we're going to use to communicate with them that will inspire them to take action. That's the difference. So words have a lot of power in them. And it's fascinating when you hear someone talk, the words that they use, how they structure their sentences, even the tense of the verbs that they use, you know exactly what's going on in their head. So understanding this is we're going to use it as a communication tool to reduce the resistance to the advice that we have to say and increase the agreement to help them achieve their goal, their dreams, their aspirations. So we want to understand how they speak to be able to understand what's going on in their head. So let's start by our first section, how communication works. Essential and fundamental elements that we understand. Even before you say anything, we want to understand this is what's going on in somebody's brain. So we've all had situation where we have different versions of a conversation. I said that. No, you didn't say that. Of course I said that. Or I said that. No, you didn't say that. We've had all these, right? Or we're trying to talk to a client and a potential client, and just the communication isn't true. Or I said this, but that's not what I meant. And so we have different interpretation. So the result is that it's a lose-lose. It's a lose for us. It's a lose for the client. It's a lose for the business. Because we can't help them because there's a disconnect between what we are saying and what they are hearing. It's just not going through. And we've all lived those situations, for sure. So there's three things that influence a message: the brain, life experiences, and the personality. So we're going to see some of the components of these today. So let's start by the brain. So there's three ways that the brain transforms a message. So what's the difference between what I say and what I hear? The brain's going to do one of these three things all the time. So the first thing that the brain will do is an omission. So the brain can only take about 7 pieces of information. This is why our phone numbers used to be only 7 digits, because that's where the brain limits. So in an omission is that the brain will focus on certain aspect of the conversation, and exclude others. The second thing the brain is going to do a generalization, which means I will make a conclusion from a few examples. An example is when we were young, you saw a door, you figured out, hey, you know what? If I push or pull that thing, it opens. You didn't have to do 3,700 doors. Usually at about 5 examples, the brain starts making a generalization. Women are, men are, car salesmen are. These are all generalizations that the brain makes. The third thing that the brain will do is a distortion. It will actually go and create its own history of something. So have you ever had an example, like a situation where you remember an event one way and somebody else sees the event or remembers the event a completely different way? That's exactly what the brain did. It did a distortion. So in our communication, the issue is that the brain will go and do an omission, generalization, or a distortion. Now, the goal of our workshop is to become an impactful communicator. So when you know that that is one of the things that the brain will do one of these things, what is our role? Oops, sorry. Our role is to end our meetings with one question. What are your takeaways from our meeting today? When I ask this question, I know, what did the brain of my client do? Did it actually do an omission, generalization, or distortion? By one question. This allows me as an impactful communicator to understand and say, oh, what are the key takeaways that I want my client to leave with following this meeting? And I will readjust. So we tend to have very long meetings where we say a lot of things, but what we think is important and what we want our client to leave with and what they leave with is not always the same. So one question allows me to readjust and realign. So if the client leaves at the end of the meeting, if I ask, what are your takeaways from our meeting today? And the client leaves, it says something and forgets what I think is the most important one really right now for us to do, it will allow me to readjust what his takeaways are. Does this make sense? Make sense? Perfect. Let me know in the chat. Does it make sense? Thank you, Denis. All right. So the second thing that the brain will do, thank you for letting me know in the chat. Yes, perfect. The second thing that the brain will do is the second thing that influence communication, is life experiences. Now, the brain will do more than things, different other things, but these 3 components of the omission, generalization, distortion is a main one. Another thing that influences our communication are, let me have a sip of water because there's something. Apparently I ate a cat for breakfast, but is life experiences. So everyone, we all have our own life experience, which will come and influence the communication. So in here, what I want to share with you today is 3 fears that humans have regarding change. So when we are considering a change, and this can be a change of doing business with you, this can be a change of taking the advice that you have from me. There's 3 fears that are going to stop me from taking action. The first one is the fear of loss. I'm afraid I'm going to lose something. So if I stop smoking, I won't have the breaks and the time to go and chit chat with my office friends. If I go on this diet, and I'm going to give you examples from any industry, but if I go on this diet, I will lose the food that I want, is that I will lose something. The second fear that we have as humans is that the fear of the process. The process will be difficult. Why don't people change bank, credit card company, cell phone company? The process change. That's why. They know that they can have a better deal somewhere else. They know that they can have a better insurance deal somewhere else. But they won't move because the brain thinks that, because the human thinks that the process will be complicated. You know, let me know in the chat what industry that you're in, so I'll make sure that to use industries that are relevant also to you. So let me know. The third fear that we have is the status quo. Nothing will change. Is that I will make all these changes, but it's going to be the same. Apples to apples. So our communication issue is thank you, James. The communication issue is that there's a fear of loss, process, or status quo. Our role, again, as an impactful communication is to proactively address this fear. Now, again, I'm not talking just in terms of in your conversation. So let's say, some in financial services. If I'm recruiting a client, I'm talking with a prospect. This is our next step together. This is what we're going to do. This is how we are going to change. This is how your life is going to be. These are the different steps. It's going to be simple. So, and we want to, even in your website, or if you still have a brochure, on a brochure, we want to proactively address these changes. So why is it that in finance, all the branding is around like either a hammock, a Muskoka chair, or a boat? Because what they're trying to address in the visual is the fear. How is life going to be after? So even if you have a rational information of this is, this is great, this is the best advice, this is what we should do, if the person is in fear, they're not going to do anything about it. And the thing is, the fears are often very unconscious. So this is why in our conversion process, in our proposing our recommendation process, we want to proactively address this fear. So the person first can come back into the conversation, and second, move past their fear, because that's our role, is to help them bypass their fear. The third thing is our personality traits. So you know how often there's a disconnect between what we say and what somebody hears, where our linguistics model influence that greatly. So there's a behavioral pattern that I want to share with you today, because in my opinion, it's a simple one to understand and clarify. So there are people who are motivated and people who are moving towards. So they're strive, they're looking for goals, they have dreams, they want to move forward. Now, there are people who are also moving away. And that you will hear it in their linguistic models. So what they want is to move away from a problem, to move away from pain. And we see this in everywhere, in which if you listen to somebody how they talk, you will understand what is their linguistic model. So let's say somebody tells you, I want to get rich, moving towards. I want to stop having money problem, moving away. Now, my money management strategy will be the same, but I will guide the way that I present it in the linguistic model of the person. And it applies to any industry. Weight management, I want to become thin, I want to lose my curve. Same thing, we do the same thing, we present it the same way. I want to sleep like a baby, I want to stop having insomnia. Same thing. So regardless of the industry, regardless, the linguistic pattern is understand. So, and it's our role to understand it. So our communication issue is there are people who are moving towards, people who are moving away. Here's the thing. In business, I'm a very moving towards person. And when I used to meet somebody, an entrepreneur who was moving away, it was bloody painful. Because I was like, my gosh, it's complicated with this person. It's always like, I felt like it was like borderline complaining, but the only thing is I just needed to listen to their pattern and enter their style. So if somebody tells you, I want to get rich, we don't tell them, and this is how you are going to stop losing money. or this is how you are going to save money, because they won't understand. So obviously the first thing is to understand our linguistic model. And then we can understand other people's linguistic model. Does this make sense? Let me know. Moving on. All right. So, so understanding how the brain works is the first step. Then we understand that the most important conversation that we all have is the conversation with ourselves, our inner dialogue. And if you're wondering what I'm saying, is that what that is? It's that voice that just said, what is she talking about? That's your internal dialogue. It is the most important conversation that we all have. So when we go to conferences or trainings on communication, they're often focused on the third steps, the words that we use, the questions to ask, and all that information. But the reality is that if I don't understand the two first steps, the foundation of the brain, the patterns, the inner dialogue, the rest doesn't matter. Because if I don't understand, for example, if the client in front of me is a moving towards and I'm a moving away from, if I don't enter their world, it doesn't matter which question I ask. It doesn't matter which words that I ask, because the foundation isn't solid. I didn't get what was really going in their brain first. So this is why in my process of strategic communication, we start by the foundation. Then we actually can go into the words that we use, and then we can use that, and we can add the tone of voice and whatnot, and even bring that, all the psycholinguistic, we bring it into our marketing, business development initiatives and everything. But we need to understand the foundation first. Dennis will be the recording. Yes, the recording will be available to you. So here's the thing. Thank you. You're talking to a person, but they're not fully present. You see that sometimes that they're preparing to answer instead of listening. The inner dialogue and the self-criticism are the two most destructive unconscious behaviors that humans have. So when you're talking with somebody and you see that they're not there, it's because they're talking with themselves. And sometimes they're talking themselves out of working with you. They're talking themselves out of following your recommendation. But you need to get in that place. Because the way that we create our world is really a reflection of what is going on in our inner chatter. That's what guides everything. So we know that beliefs, either they're limiting us or supporting us, influence behaviors. So if I believe I can do something, then I'll actually take action or not take action, which means I'm going to get the results or not get the results. But when we understand psycholinguistic, we understand that the first step before that, it's to understand the words that people use, the words that we use, how that influences behaviors, beliefs, which influence behaviors, which influences outcome. So here's what we tend to do when the person is stuck, is actually in their inner chatter. The mistake number one that we do is always we want to provide more information. Like, oh, well, I'll give more information to the person and hopefully they'll understand and, it'll be rational. That is the first reflex that we have. We'll just give more information. Or mistake number two that we do is we repeat. The next meeting, I'll tell them again the same thing. Like, the meeting that I was saying that I said 3 times, it was the same meeting. I felt completely in that communication mistake. I thought, you know what, if it's the 3rd time I say the meeting, then they'll take action. But that's just not how it works. So people are in 95% of our behavior is automatic, autopilot. They're stuck in beliefs. They're stuck in patterns. So what do we want to listen to? And being an impactful communicator is as much as understanding human behavior, understanding the power of words, understanding the power of silence, understanding the power of listening. So when somebody talks and they use words such as I have to, I must, I was told, never, always, there's an inner chatter in there that is telling you that they are stuck in a pattern, in a belief. So I have many entrepreneurs, I'll talk with them and, like, well, I have to work at least one evening a week. I have to respond to all my clients' emails as soon as they come in. I have to do this and I have to do that and I should do this and I should do that, and then we should all over ourselves. So when we listen to these words, it's telling you exactly that the person is having a conversation. So instead of giving more information, giving more research, reports, whatnot, or repeating the same thing, get into the person's world, because you will never out-communicate their inner chatter. You will never do that. But what we want is we want to realize what's going on in their head, enter their world, and help them bypass the beliefs and the pattern that they're kind of stuck in. Which comes in with the inner dialogue. And in the words that we use from there, from an understanding. And for those who will continue in the program, you'll see we dive deeper in terms of the brain and cognitive biases, inner chatter, how that influence. But we need those two steps to be able to use the right words, the right sentence at the right time. So I want to first make a distinction between manipulation, persuasion, and influence. So manipulation, we kind of use these three words sometimes as synonym, but they're really not. So manipulation, I think that one is pretty clear. That is to use your influence to your own benefit. We all know that. Persuasion is to present the information in a way that you might not get the full buy-in. It's like, yeah, I guess that's a good idea. That's persuasion. That's not what we do. What we do is really have a clarity on what the person's dreams, desires, aspirations are. Help them expand their mindset so they can make a decision that is good for them. That is what we do. So the difference between these three words is one thing, is intent. That's it. So we want to gain clarity in there. And when you get that clarity, that is the type of influence that you want to have, that is really how we're able to help our clients. And then our business thrives from there because people feel that we've got their back. So here's a situation we all get into. Our client knows what to do. They know the recommendation that we have is good, but they don't take action. My infamous client, third meeting, the marketing strategy, they knew that was a good thing, they weren't taking action. Clients procrastinate, they sabotage, they ignore, they don't have time, right? Clients don't become ambassadors. What happens is we understand that our level of success depends if our clients adhere to our advice or recommendation. That's how we succeed. That is our tool when we are in a service-based business. Is the person taking action? If they take action, they will get their results. If they get their results, then I will be able to help more people get their results. So that is the number one business tool, is the words that we use. So which brings me to talk about how do we motivate people to take action? There's something, I call it the ultimate motivator, okay? The why behind everything. Now, we often talk, and thank you to Simon Sinek that said, the why. But here's the thing is we often don't get the why because people first don't know it. And second, we are not an impactful communicator on putting the right thing to get the real why. People give us first degree communication. What we want to create is second degree communication. So key questions to go and understand the real why are, one that I love is I'm curious. If you want to ask anything in life, seriously, and you're not too sure exactly how to ask, started with I'm curious, anything can go after that. I'm curious, why are we doing this? Why is this important for you? What will it bring you? And here's one question that I like to ask to my entrepreneurs who are very successful already. It's like, what will it bring you that you don't already have? But here's the catch. They will tell you an intellectual reason. What we want is to dig to get an emotion. Let me give you an example. I see we have some people in financial services because I have a lot of clients in financial services. I'm curious, why are we doing this? Oh, well, I want to make sure I have enough money for retirement. Okay, great, awesome. What does an ideal retirement look for? Well, I want to be able to travel and golf. Usually the conversation stays there. That's another why. That's an intellectual why. It's not a visceral why. So we need to learn and we need to get deeper to go in an emotion, because the truth is 95% of our decisions are based on emotions. The reason you are here today is not a logical reason. It's not a rational reason of, oh, I'll get information. It's a visceral reason saying, you know what? I want to communicate better. I want to influence better. I want to have a greater impact. I want to help better my clients. That will bring me success, accomplishment. That is the emotion that you're seeking. This is why you're here, because there's 3 times the number of people that are here today that have registered. But your reason that you are here is because you were able to pinpoint, consciously or unconsciously, very often it's unconscious, the emotion that you're seeking. And that is how you make it. And I love this quote that Simon Sinek says, Martin Luther King had a have a dream speech, not I have a plan speech. When we talk to our clients, we often talk about plans. Rational does not make people move. We are just bubbles of emotion. We are a bubble, emotion making machine. So our role as an impactful communication is to have the courage to go and create those second level of conversation, those deeper conversation. And I can tell you one thing, when we have those type of conversation, we don't work as hard because it's not an intellectual, it's not a head-to-head thing. It's a meaning-to-meaning thing. And there's a lot of fluff that gets dropped because now we're talking about the right thing, what's really important and what's really going on. So if we look into the words, okay, the actual words that we want to, I say stop using. You'll see for those who continue, it's not to stop using, but it's using with intention. But let's go with stop using or reconsider. There we go. The word but. So you see, on a brain perspective, when I put but in a sentence, it eliminates the first half of a sentence. It wasn't a good idea, but you could have had them, you could have done this instead. The part of you could have had an idea, it was a good idea. The brain just erased it off. I understand, Mr. Client, but it'll be fine. But we'll do this. We just ditched the empathy that we have. So this is where the word but, it's a double-edged sword word, because it just really deeps, it reduces it, well, it cuts off everything that's in there. Ines, I saw you have a question. I'll come back later. So we're good? Thank you. I was trying to read it at the same time, and yeah, we'll come back to it. So but is a word that you want to really reconsider in your language. What do we want? So at the same time, what do we want to start using is at the same time. So at the same time makes a link between the first half of my sentence and the second half of my sentence. I understand, Mr. Client. At the same time, the solution I'm presenting is particularly suited. This is the right thing to do. Now I'm not ditching their concern. I'm not ditching their worry. I'm just leveraging on that part of a sentence. The word, I will try. So this is when we say things, but listen to these words also when somebody's saying that. So for example, if somebody says, yes, but, they just told you no without telling you no. That's what they just told. So I will try. On a brain perspective, try equals fail. We all know somebody who tried to stop smoking, tried to go to the gym, tried to eat better, tried many things, it doesn't work. So the word try doesn't even exist on a brain perspective. So what do I want instead? Play with words like test and do. Try not to worry. Trust me, let's be confident. Try to do this, test this out. And you will see if a client tells you, I'll try to send you the documents next week, chances are you will not see the documents next week. And it's funny because recently I was doing another workshop and I was talking with a new client and I was saying, oh, but by the way, on Friday I have a workshop. And one of the two partners like, oh, okay, great. Well, I'll try to be there. And I explained the word try. And he's like, okay, so I can tell you, Sarah, I already have an appointment in my meeting, in my agenda on Friday. You see, they could have just told me, but people want to be polite. So the word try, it means that it's not going to happen. Don't. The brain doesn't understand the negative. Okay, so if I tell my daughter, don't drop your glass of milk, count to 3 and the glass of milk is dropped. Because the brain will make the image of the glass of milk dropped and then have to undo the image, but too bad it's already done. So the brain doesn't understand negative sentences. So we want to change the structure of our sentence to bring them into the positive. Don't forget your documents turns into remember to bring your documents. Don't do this means don't do that. I remember several years ago, my son was playing soccer and the coach kept on saying to all the boys, don't run the middle field. Don't run in the middle with the soccer ball. Don't run in the middle. Don't run in the middle. What did the boys do all the time? They all ran in the middle because the brain can't do like this. Don't do this, do that. So run on the side of the field. That the brain knows what to do. Don't stress. Stay calm. Don't hesitate to call me. What I'm saying here is hesitate to call me. Contact me. So we can see that like these sentences, we use them on a regular basis without realizing. But here's my intention today is to bring awareness towards that how the words that we use and how we structure our sentences will have an impact on if the person is going to take action or not take action. So 3 words to stop using. Yes, but, the word but. I'll try. Don't. Thank you for the comments. So, like I said, when somebody tells you, yes, but, you know that they just told you. So it's fun because obviously with my clients, they know that I know I'm a geek of psycholinguistics. I teach it and I hope that, and whenever they tell me, yes, but I'm saying, you could have just told me no right away, right? And we have a laugh around it because that's really what they mean. They just said yes, but because they want to be polite. People want to be liked. People don't want to offend anybody. So that's what they're saying. Now, if we go on the other side of it, is words that we want to start using. The word imagine. So here's what happens. When the word imagine, when we use it, we actually take the person and we go from the rational part of their brain into the creative part of their brain. There's no limit there. There's no limiting beliefs there. The potentiality is there. So the word imagine is a magical word that we want to start using to get away from the rational brain that says, oh no, I can't do this and I'm feared and whatever, into that creation. So imagine the retirement of your dream. What would you do? Imagine if we solve this problem together. How would you feel? And the third one is one that I use all the time. Imagine we structure your business like this, that it runs your business, gives you time to focus on your expertise in your zone of genius. What would this allow you to do? So I often talk that there's two worlds. There's the world of probability and there's a world of possibility. Our role is to tip the scale and bring our clients in the world of possibility. So that, because that is where they achieve their dreams, their goal, their desires. Another word that we want to start using is more the name of the person. So an interesting study demonstrated that when we test a pen for the first time, 97% of us will write our name. And seriously, when you think about it, that's exactly what you do. And this is why the Coca-Cola ad or campaign with the names was a good marketing success. There was other issues with it, but people were buying the Coca-Cola not because they wanted it, because it was their name or it was the name of their friend. So the name of the person. So in our communication, when we talk to them, when we write to them, just even ending the email saying, Mrs. Smith, it was really nice talking to you today. Mrs. Smith, if you have any question, I'm there. This brings a feeling that I'm important. And the word together. As humans, we are tribal humans. We are a tribal species. We need the togetherness to feel safe. So again, this is a word that we want to use. So, and in our sentences, well, this is exactly what we're going to accomplish together. Well, together we'll get through it. This is how they feel safe. This is how we feel safe as humans. So we have 3 words. What I'm suggesting is I'm giving 3 words to start using more with intentionality in your communication. And again, spoken, written, this all applies. Which brings us to the art of asking excellent questions. When you ask a question, you get an answer. When you ask an excellent question, you get the truth. Now we can go deeper in terms of how to structure sentences and whatnot, but what I want to share today is when you ask an excellent question, when you ask a question, basically any question, the brain can't do anything else other than answer to that question. The thing is, we have a tendency of asking borderline crappy questions. So we get crappy answers. We don't ask the real questions. So we don't get the real answer. Coming back to my when I was talking before of the ultimate motivator, when I ask, what do you want for retirement? Like, what's the goal for retirement? To go travel and play golf and I stay there? That's not what really they're seeking. So developing the art of asking a question will increase the likelihood of something happening. So it's an art to ask these excellent questions. But it's, again, this is our professional toolbox. This is how we help. Because when I ask a question, I actually plant the seed into somebody's brain. So when I ask somebody, what do you want? There's a good majority of the time people will say, I don't know, because humans don't know what they want. But here's an interesting thing, is when you ask people what they want, they will tell you, I don't know. And the ones who don't tell you, I don't know, they will tell you 1 or 2 things, what they don't want and what they've tried in the past. Seriously, play around with that. You're going to see it's fascinating how it's always the same pattern that's going on. You ask them what they want. This is what I don't want. This is what I've tried in the past. Like, okay, perfect. Now can we really, and we tend to stop our conversation there. So our role as an impactful communication is that, all right, this is the starting point of our conversation. So the communication issue is that we speak at the first level. We stay rational. This is where we get stuck. This is why people don't take action. This is why 1 in 26 clients will actually complain. The rest, they will just leave. because this is where people are satisfied, but they're not thriving. So our role is to use an intentional process to create second level conversations. When I listen how somebody talks, when I filter of, oh my gosh, this is what their brain did. This is what's going on. This is a cognitive bias that a shortcut that they just took to, the brain's role is to save energy. That's what it's aiming for all the time. Then from there, I can understand and create that second level, understanding that decisions are made by emotions, understanding that there's fear in there, understanding of how the person is talking. It tells me exactly everything that's going on in their head. That is the role of an impactful communicator. So we talked about the importance of the brain, of what filters our communication. The brain does it. Our life perspective will do it. Life experiences will do it. And our patterns, our personalities will do it. Understand, see examples when you did it. See, are you a moving towards or moving away type of person? If you're moving towards, I can guarantee you find talking with people that are moving away very painful. Your role is just to get into their world and to speak in their language. Then we talked about the inner chatter, the inner dialogue, which is the most important conversation that anybody has, is the one that they have with themselves. And we see that there's a way that we can actually structure our conversations. So I'm planting the inner chatter that the person is going to have. So if you follow me on social media, I'll often share start some posts with, Sarah, how do I, Why do I start posts like that? It's because I am putting the internal conversation that you have, that you're going to have, I'm planting it in your head. That's our role. And then there's words to use with more intention. Ask questions, understanding human dynamics. If you just implement this, you'll see a huge dramatic shift in your impact that we have on clients, on the influence that we have. And I love Daniel Kahneman, who wrote many, many outstanding books. But one thing that he does is, like, people prefer to do business with somebody they like and trust, even that person that has a lower quality product and a higher price. Why do I want to bring this? If I'm a moving towards person and I'm talking with somebody who's moving away, by shifting the way that I talk, I will bring more like and more trust, because the person will say unconsciously, oh, she's like me. We speak the same language. If we speak the same language, it's because we are similar. We're going to get along. I will like you and I will trust you more. If I use even the same word, somebody who tells me, I want to buy a house, and I was telling you, hey, how's the home hunting going? It's not the same words. So like and trust is not just about being charismatic. It is in our linguistic that we want to use it. And Carnegie Institute demonstrated that 85% of our success is due to our personality, our ability to communicate and negotiate and lead people. 15% is due to our technical knowledge. We put so much emphasis on our technical knowledge, and I'm not saying that that's not important. It is important, but in our communication, we put too much emphasis on it. In our written communication, in our spoken communication, in our website, we put too much information. Remember, 95% of the decisions that we made are made based on emotions. That's how people connect. We're just one big bubble of emotion. So for those who want to go further and deeper into, we're soon starting the cohort for Impactful. So Impactful is my psycholinguistic for business program. Well, we dive deep into the different areas that we talk a lot, that we spoke about today, but even deeper in terms of human behavior, dialogue. How does this impact the decision-making process? How does it impact how you're going to present information? My team knows now that if you send me an email that has more than 5 sentences, I'm not going to read it, because they know how to present information in a way that connects with me. But we have a tendency of communicating how it works for us. But there's 4 ways to present information depending of who I'm speaking to. And then we bring it to, yes, in our leadership, understanding human dynamics, understanding also how to navigate difficult conversation. And we bring it up to your business development. How does this understanding psycholinguistic influence how you're going to do social media posts, how it influences the text that you're going to write for your website, emails that you're going to write? So we really geek out and dive deep into your communication so you can become an impactful communication. This is a live program. Do I have the information here? So we start on the 30th. And it's not Wednesdays at 2, it's Wednesdays at 10. Let me change that. So we start on the 30th, and it's 8 weeks that we all go. There's 8 core modules that we go together, and it's live. So I'm there with you. We also have a private group. You have questions, comments, concern. If I see it, there's many questions, I come up and I do a live and on it. And you have a lifetime access, which means not you can listen to the recordings forever, is you can use the recordings forever if you want, but you can take the program live forever. I deliver it live because I do it live every year. And every year I learn something more every year. And I'm the one who built it, and I'm the one who created it. And every year I'm like, oh, you know what? That was good. That worked. And I stopped doing it. So every year I come back and I do it live. So you can come back and do it live as well every single year, because it's not something that you can just turn on. It's not like math, 1 + 1 = 2. It's not. It's such at a deeper level in terms of our own behavior and our own habits in our communication. So the investment is $1,500 plus taxes. There's payment option if you want. It is, the program name is impactful because that is the promise. It changes the way that we think. It changes the way that we communicate. So, there's people who say like this program has been a revelation. We understand about the brain. It changes our leadership. It changes our posture. So the program is for the ones who want to make a difference, the ones who want to have an impact on your clients. So I'll put in the chat the link if you want to go and have a look at the information. There's more testimonials there. But this is one of I have 3 programs. That's all I have. That's how I run my business. This one is all about how we communicate. This is the one that I personally use every single day with my clients, because at the end of the day, that's all we have, is how are we going to influence people. So I do hope that you join me for the next program that we are starting at the end of the month. You'll see there's so much insight. If you think we went deep today, you will love how deeper we go even during the program and during the cohort. And we do it with fun. So on a brain perspective, again, you're going to hear me talking a lot about the brain because that's what I do. When we have fun with this, then that's actually how the brain wants to do it again and again and again. So test out the insight that we had today, that we shared today in terms of how a new message is influenced. The most important conversation that you had, maybe observe the conversation that you're currently having and that you had throughout that I was talking today. And then from there, you're going to see, okay, yes, this does influence. And we talked about the words to stop using or using with more intention, and the words and some words to use even more to have a greater impact and a greater influence, because our clients need us to help them to move from the world of probability into the world of possibility. And the only way we can really do that authentically is to do it with the words that we use. So I want to thank you. I'm going to open up for questions. Let me remove this.
So Sarah, thank you first of all for this interesting session. I learned a lot from you. Like, it's really, really interesting. And I'm a recruitment headhunter, and here my goals for my business is to make hiring managers provide feedbacks on candidates faster, because sometimes they like the candidate, but they don't reply very quickly, and you know, they tell me the same as what you said. I don't have time, or I was very busy, and no, it's not. You know, so it's not. If you have any tips behind this, maybe trying to understand the behavior, or I don't know.
Well, thank you for the question. And yes, okay. First, I want to say one thing. I don't have time and I don't have money are the two biggest excuses humans use. Always. And time is not something we have, time is something we create. So again, developing the art of asking the question to go and understanding what is the emotion that they're seeking, because in business, we're a solution to a problem. It's that simple. So we want to put the finger on what the problem is. And from there, now, when some people are stuck in their head, which is a good portion of the population, one question that I love asking is, what would it take? What would it take for you to take 5 minutes to look at this? If we're recruiting a client, what would it take for us to do business together? The what would it take is a question that is not a confrontational question. And when I ask this question, the person will actually tell me. So what would it take? Now, if I want commitment to somebody, I will again ask a question. If I call you Tuesday at 2, will you have time by then to have a look at my document or whatever I'm proposing? The person will commit themselves. We don't want to impose, never. We want the answer to come from the person. So if the person says no, Tuesday at 2 doesn't work, reciprocity law will say, they will come back 99.8% of the time with no, but Thursday at 10, I will. They will give us a commitment. But even before those two, we want to understand is what is the emotion that they're seeking. And all of our approach is and must be surrounded around that emotion that they're seeking. So if you want to free more of your time so you can focus on what you're really good at, then I need you to look at these documents so we can hire the right person. So now it's time that we look at these documentation or do this next step. So understanding the emotion that they're seeking, and then there's questions that you can use as the one I just mentioned that will help you get an engagement from there. But remember, the brain doesn't like change. The brain's job is to keep us alive, which means staying in its comfort zone. Yeah, that's important. So we need to stretch the comfort zone, but you can't take it from there to there. It's one step at a time, because I compare the comfort zone like an elastic. If you stretch it too much, it'll just snap. So how do I stretch it a bit? Well, I can go first, find the emotion that they're seeking, and then looking for, commitment and commitment from their part. Does that make sense?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with me today, taking this hour of your Thursday morning so we can talk about and geek out on linguistics and communication and whatnot. And I sure hope that I'll get to see you in the program that we're starting very soon. And on this, I will wish you an amazing day. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.